Okay, so at the end of another video, I'm not sure if it's the one that's right before this or not, but at the end of another video, I started to go into what it means to think and act from the end, because this is another thing that is discussed. You know, honestly, I think this is a lot of Neville language that confuses people. People love Neville Goddard, but really, like, the words that he used from like the 30s, 40s, 50s, I just don't think capture it for today's audience for many people. If you haven't gone through it, like if you've gone through this process already of like imagining something, persisting in the end state, and then getting it, it becomes a lot more clear what a lot of this stuff means in like practical reality. And the one thing I always like to think about is, and what I think illustrates this perfectly is, if you take a guy who is who's making like, you know, $300 a week or something, living in some shithole apartment, you know, just like really unsuccessful financially, and all of a sudden you swapped Bill Gates's brain into this guy's head, and now Bill Gates is operating this guy. How long do you think it would be before Bill Gates got himself out of that situation and was back on the road to being a billionaire? I guarantee you that Bill Gates, thrust into that guy's situation, would not stay there. And I think this also illustrates the difference between, you know, people seem to get really confused when they say, you know, how do I act from the end? How do I act like a person that has a lot of money when I don't have any? A person with a lot of money would be buying whatever they wanted and would be, you know, they would be acting like a person who has money in the way of spending money. When what it really means is, how would the person who has a lot of money act given your current 3D circumstances? How would they think? What would they do, basically? That is what living from the end, or thinking from the end, means. I gotta be really careful not to say the wrong words on here. Thinking from the end basically means, what would the person who I'm going to end up being do with this situation right now? So, for example, I will use myself with the weight, which I've been talking about this so much more than I want to lately. But, you know, I tried to operate my 190 pound surroundings when I started, you know, losing weight. It was always two things. One little bonus here. It was what would the thin version of me do with this? What you have to start like acting from that. No, I couldn't go out literally to a store and try on clothes in a size 2. But you know, that's what I would actually do at that weight. But you know, I can take my current surroundings and try to operate from that mentality as best as I can. You know, you don't really know what it's going to be like until you get there, if you haven't already been there. But you know, you do that to the best of your ability. So for me, you know, what does the 115 pounder do when it's 10 o'clock at night and there's an impulse from the 190 pounder to go to the store and buy a sheet cake? What does the 110 pound person think about that? What do they do with that situation? Do they say, yeah, let's go do it? Or do they say, no, that's not a part of this. We don't do that anymore. I weigh 115. I don't want to go to the store and buy a big cake because that's gross. It's 10 o'clock at night. It's time to go to bed. And no, like, that's just, for example. Of course, you're welcome to be a 115 pounder that eats sheet cakes every night at 10 p.m. I don't want to talk about it, but that's just an example. And the other thing I was saying, a little side bonus, was the other thing that I did, the other little mental thing that I did to persist through the transition mentally, was to constantly think about how I was gonna feel about what I was doing, you know, this choice I was presented with. Which choice am I gonna be glad that I made when I wake up tomorrow morning? So it's 10 o'clock at night. My fat brain is saying, let's go get a sheet cake. Tomorrow morning when I wake up, I know I'm not gonna be thinking about sheet cake anymore, one way or the other. Like, when I wake up tomorrow morning, I either will have satisfied that little impulse, or I will have, you know, I'm in a different frame at 8 in the morning than I am at 10 at night. I know I'm not going to want the sheet cake at 8 a.m. So tomorrow morning, when I wake up, am I going to be glad that I went and did this? Or am I going to be glad that I didn't? And I did that over and over and over again. That was, you know, what I did to stay in the state of being the person that was different than I was. So that was incredibly useful. And that is not easy, by the way. I'm having a really hard time doing anything like that now. Right now, I'm just lately, like, but the whole last year, you know, I've been like kind of dealing with losing my dad and just a bunch of other shit. The new situation where I have, I'm engaged and I live with somebody and all that. I've just kind of like been, you know, in instant gratification mode. So not a lot's been happening. I've just kind of been like treading water and trying to enjoy my life as much as I can. But yeah, that little thing where you like want to do something to gratify, instant gratification, that will totally be counter to what the version of you that you're trying to become would do. Thinking about, you know, what's the version of me that wakes up tomorrow morning going to be glad that I did right now, and then doing that gets a lot easier after you do it like 3 or 4 times. You just start, because then you actually experience it. The next morning you wake up and you go, God, I'm so glad I didn't do that. I'm so excited that I stayed with, you know, I'm so excited that I stayed the course. I'm so excited that I decided to, you know, do what the version of me I want to be would do instead of the old version that I'm trying to leave would do. It's just really, you know, I would literally wake up in the morning, remember that I had done that, and be super excited. And then it just built on itself. Anyway, okay, so that's, I hope, kind of covered that topic of what thinking from the end means. About when it's like a personal change, something that you're trying to change about yourself, or something that you're, you know, a goal you're trying to accomplish that requires changing your mentality to some degree. That's what thinking from the end is. And when it comes to things like an event you're just trying to make happen, you know, or like for me, you know, my best example of not having done anything to get something is Matt, me and my fiance, like we just kind of found each other. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to go on a dating set. I didn't want to go on a dating set. I didn't have to do anything. It just kind of like happened. And for that, there wasn't a lot of thinking from the end. Like I didn't think from the end of being in a relationship with the right person. All I did was become the person that would work in that relationship in the first place. Just kind of an enormous prerequisite that this is making sound like it really wasn't. Like that was a big deal. That took 20 years. And when I finally got there, I was thinking from the end. I was already the person that fit into that relationship. So I was just naturally already thinking from the end. God, I hope that helps somebody. Whenever I end these videos, I'm just like, did anything I just said make sense? Did any of it go in logical order? Does this shit make sense to anybody? I don't know. I hope it did. Have a good day.